All right. So we're looking at this is election day, November 8th. It's a seminal election, and Brian has a lot to say about it. This is...
I do?
You do. You do.
Okay.
This is Brian Karem from the White House Press Corps, and we've spent many days kind of fighting Trump during...
Well, just trying to survive Trump, actually.
Well, but you asked the most important question.
Why, thank you.
Yes, you did. You know you did.
Well, it was, win, lose, or draw.
In this election, will you commit here today for a peaceful transferal of power after the election? And there has been rioting in Louisville. There's been rioting in many cities across this country, red and your so-called red and blue states. Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
I understand that, but people are rioting. Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transferal of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. The ballots are out of control. You know it. And you know who knows it better than anybody else? The Democrats know it better than anybody else. Go ahead.
We're still living that nightmare of his answer. So, yeah, he can't, didn't, won't.
It was the most important question. I mean, many times in the press briefing room, people are very polite. They always ask kind of just very prosaic questions, but you got right to the
Well, I think it's called a crappy questions, but yeah, some prosaic. But there's nothing better than a blunt question, and I like asking blunt, pointed questions. So I'll keep doing that.
All right. So what about today? What about November 8th? What's going on today?
You're going to decide whether or not you want a democracy. That's the only issue on the ballot today, and no matter how you paint it, what it boils down to is if the Republicans win, they've already said they're going to, you won't see much legislation in the next 2 years. You're going to see a lot of Hunter Biden laptop investigations. You're going to see the removal of, you're going to see, well, maybe the loss of Social Security and Medicare. And look, that's not me saying that. That's what the Republicans have said.
Exactly right. That's what they're saying.
They're saying you elect us, and we're going to get rid of Medicare and Social Security. And by the way, the Democrats are horrible socialists, and so vote for us without ever realizing what socialism is or defining it. It's all about fear, striking fear so they can control and keep power. And that's what the Republican Party has turned into. Now, the Democrats are myopic and disaffected and horrible at messaging, but at least they still respect the Constitution. So as ineffective as they are, and the lesser of two evils, you got to look at it that way. The real question is, why can't we get better representation in the U.S. and better candidates? And that's our fault.
And the Democratic Party must answer the question, why did you put up Katie Hobbs, who refuses to answer Kari Lake in debate? Just go out and say, look, you're a liar, and just bring it out. Why doesn't she fight her?
Well, the bigger question is, why do the Democrats suck at messaging? Why aren't they out touting what they've actually done? I've seen Republicans across the country in the last 3 months running on the infrastructure bill that they voted against.
Isn't that funny?
And the Democrats who voted for it aren't.
Right.
So the Democrats allow the Republicans to frame the argument. The Republicans do so very well. They're very good at fighting. The Democrats are not very good at fighting. They have, these pie-in-the-sky ideas, and some of them are really great. But we have two political parties in this country. One has no heart, one has no head.
That's right. That's exactly right. So one thing about this election is the pollsters seem to be going back and forth as to what's going to happen.
I don't think the pollsters have a frickin' clue as to what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that polling has exposed the weak point in reporting, which is we simply cover the horse race aspect of it based on polls, which is based on interviews, and it's a sampling of those people, and some who won't talk and some who will, and that drives the narrative instead of the issues that should drive the narrative. And we're very poor at it because over the years we've gotten extremely poor as reporters in doing our job. So it's as much our fault as holding these people accountable. Plus, the simple fact is that it used to be as a reporter, you would hold politicians with great disdain instead of kowtowing to them, which is a lot of what goes on here.
Right. We see that every day here.
Yeah.
We see that every day. I mean,
I never acquired the taste for
one of the things
butt.
that you said, which when the new administration took over, you went into the press office and you said, look, I'm not going to be your friend. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire.
Right. Look, I'm not friend of, if you, after you get out of the administration, you want to come over to the house for a beer and a barbecue, maybe you'll be a friend. But right now, you're professional colleagues. These people are to be held, they're politicians, they're to be held in the highest minimum regard. I don't care who's in office.
Right.
And they have to be held accountable for what they do. And the Democrats have a lot to be accountable for, and they've not been very good at being accountable. Now, that being said, you don't criticize everyone equally. There's a certain level of criticism that you reserve for Trump because he's a despot. And so there's a certain amount of criticism there for those who don't respect the Constitution.
Right.
There's another level of criticism for those who do, but are just merely ineffective in doing their job.
Right. That's exactly right. Trump, I mean, I always likened it to confetti in the press briefing room. You just throw out lies so many.
Well, that's the polite way of saying he just threw poo at the fan to see where it would land. Yeah. That's all it was.
And it was just, it was almost impossible to correct him on every single lie because it was just lie.
Well,
like that.
If it came out of his mouth, it was usually a lie.
Yeah.
Unless he was telling you, I'm not going to, I won't respect the results of the election. You could take him at his word on that.
Yeah.
and you could take him at his word on when, he was asked about, Harry and his wife. And he goes, well, he better be careful of that one. And yeah, well, I guess he would know.
And he was also very truthful about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
And he said, he liked her,
But
exactly.
There you go.
So today, we've got this election. You talked about democracy, but you also, we talked about this at lunch earlier, how the Republicans are actually more scared than they make out to be about what the outcome could be.
I think that Republicans are in some respect gaslighting, so they're setting themselves up for if they fail, they can call, the big lie again and hoax and say that it was the fix was in. Whenever you lose, if you're claiming that the fix is in, then you're just a sore loser.
Right.
And that's what they are. They're also, no one really knows because the polls have been, as you said, all over the place, and there are some that show the Republicans gaining both control of the House and the Senate by a wide margin. Please don't call it a crimson or red wave anymore, because that has a really different connotation. If you've ever seen the movie Clueless, and I'm not going to go there, but it shows that the Republicans are clueless by claiming that. But those polls have also shown the Democrats holding on to, or the Democrats losing 20 seats. So I don't think anyone really quite knows where it's going to fall out. And I think early voting has helped erase the leg up that polling would give you. And so I don't respect the polls, and I think we're going to have to wait and see where it all falls out.
And that could
it's
be
all
many
guesswork.
Days. It could be weeks, actually.
Well, it could be. In some of these closer races, you've got to count the ballots, and the people living out of the country. There's thousands of those, and
Military.
that can really sway an election. So,
Right.
especially the close races. So you're going to have to wait and see at least 3 or 4 days before this all shakes out. You may know some of it tonight, but be wary of those who are going to proclaim victory for either party this evening, because individual races, yes, the net gain or loss in the Senate and the House, I don't think you're going to know by the end of this evening.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, what a pleasure.
Always, brother, always.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace. You bet.